50-time gold portfolio in favor of Bitcoin.
We got in early, Silk Road. They must have had some good drugs. That rug pool you were in explains why you're in retail trying to push drugs. Went from driving a Lambo to a Camry. Scammer for a ride in the backseat. Taxi and Maxine asked me back some old coins. Don't ask me, cause I'm a marginalized white male, toxic Maxine. Lost your keys? Little piggies cannot get up in the house. Oink oink lessons, pigs get slaughtered. Altcoin reference. Don't cry to me if you can't spend your CBDs for Wi-Fi costs. I'll take your D-filled tissues and with them I'll just wipe my balls. If you can't tell what the price is high for a naked salad bowl, you're malinformed. It's malice caused by central bank and reckless nonsense. I'm eating well, but me go ran wilding out in no corners. Like backside to do a beat of shit at the end of Bitcoin slang. I'm feeling well, living it up in the penthouse of the tallest building within the fortress walls of the Bitcoin citadel. They say more toxic, more toxic than the most toxic Bitcoin
You scale that up to build the population, you see it getting co-opted through. We had this conversation with Larger earlier. This idea of when
This is your pilot speaking. We're now arriving at Orange. If this is your first time, a reminder, there's no customs or immigration, or any government for that matter. The people here, they're, shall we say, self-sovereign, free to build and create, to play and trade, and that's just the beginning. Now please strap in. It's gonna be a hell of a ride.
Who do you become when nobody's watching? What lengths will you go to survive in this world?
When there's cold hard cash up for grabs, doesn't that make all this real?
There is no second best.
We're ungovernable.
No.
We die on this hill. I will fucking die on this fucking hill.
We have values, but if you're going to take those away, then we'll leave and we'll start a new America. We'll start America somewhere else. It's an idea. It doesn't have to be in frickin' Chicago.
This is your pilot speaking. We're now arriving
Yo, sound check, 1, 2. Sound check. I wonder if I'm coming through clearly.
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. So the audio is coming through the stream nice and clearly. This is great. So this is I think this is the 5th Orange Bitcoin meetup. And look at the thriving little city or civilized little society we've got going this wipe. How awesome is that? In about 10 or so minutes, we're going to have a presentation from Kiwilamb on Bitcoin. But before then, if anyone wants to talk about Bitcoin, they're welcome to. It's open mic. Maybe I've actually got a little bit of extra blood on me, a little bit of sats. If anyone wants to do a little bit of a pop quiz to earn some Bitcoin, that could be how we pass the time too. Yeah, that's a good round of applause there. I don't know how we're going to do this, but I'm going to ask a question, and I'll give 1,000 sats to I guess the first person to yell out the correct answer. So all right. Oh, I should introduce something. Over here on the wall, we have a block clock that was built by a resident here, Kiwilamb. It's really awesome. It's actually a live tracker of the current block height of Bitcoin. That's the number of blocks that we're up to. So roughly every 10 minutes, there's another block added to the blockchain. And so right now, we're at block height 796,620. Now, pop quiz. What happens at block height 840,000? Yeah, Zulu in the chat there. Yeah, you can answer that. Zulu beat you to it. Exactly, the halving. I'm not sure his microphone's working, but in the orange chat he said there the halving. So here you go, sir. Here's your prize. I'm just wondering why that chat didn't actually show up on the stream. Maybe I'll try to diagnose that. If anyone else has anything they want to share at the moment about Bitcoin, any Bitcoin stories, I'm just going to quickly check something.
Who's here to collect the blood?
Yeah.
Maybe we need a tally board for the top blood collectors, and we have a tally board somewhere here.
Oh yeah, that's an awesome idea. We have something similar, but I guess on the other direction we have a tally or a leaderboard for the top blood donators.
Right.
I think now the Discord chat is going to start working in a second. Photo is coming through saying he'll collect the blood.
Yeah. No, Photo will have to come down and answer some questions by the sound of it, if he wants. It's probably the easiest blood he's going to get.
So the topic today is going to be on wallets. Now, the way that we interact with Bitcoin has certainly changed over the years. Now, people have been around a while, have probably tried lots of different wallets. all with various different things about them that make them unique. I was wondering if anyone, what some wallets that people have been trying lately. There's so many out there.
I've been trying Wallet of Satoshi.
Oh,
Yep,
cool. And what do you think of that?
that's a
How's
really
that been
good
working?
one.
I like they added the contacts list and the custom lightning address. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's a really neat feature. So previously they were just giving you sort of like a pre-canned lightning address, but now you can customize that to be a bit more unique to yourself, I guess. So anyone out there, a lightning address allows you to receive a lightning payment via a sort of an email-like address. So it's a bit easier for people to remember and use. And you're saying the contact list as well, you can put those lightning addresses on a contact list, so you can easily just select them from a list. Maybe it's your friends and family, and you can easily send and receive Bitcoin to them.
That's really convenient using lightning addresses, isn't it? And also good news, the Orange chat is now available on the stream, so people on the stream can see the comments. A wallet that I've tried recently that I thought was pretty cool was the Breeze wallet. So something about mobile wallets is that there's kind of different ways to do the security. Wallet of Satoshi is super convenient, and they manage all the lightning stuff behind the scenes for you, which makes it really seamless. But to get that convenience, the trade-off is that you're letting them be responsible for your Bitcoin, like you're trusting them with your private key. Breeze is similar in that it tries to take care of things behind the scenes, but you don't actually trust them with your Bitcoin. You get to keep your private key. So it's what's called a self-custodial wallet. But the trade-off there is that it's a little bit less convenient sometimes because you are actually opening up your own channels behind the scenes. So yeah, that's a bit of a technical thing. But that's a really cool development in this space to see the way wallets are evolving. And these are all Lightning wallets, but originally the wallets they used were, I mean, even now, if you want to keep your savings, you want to take it on-chain using on-chain transactions. And the first wallet is actually the Bitcoin node. When you run the node, which is the thing that holds the blockchain and verifies all the transactions, that itself is actually a wallet software. And originally the only way to use Bitcoin was to have the entire blockchain on your computer. So changing the subject a little bit, what's the Bitcoin scene like in everyone's parts of the world? There's some people here from Honduras. How's Bitcoin over there?
Oh, it's slowly catching along here. They've been using it a lot in Roatan, but not here in the capital as much. But it's going along.
So I've heard
that's
that
awesome.
Roatan is like a kind of like a business area or something that's been set up, hasn't it? It's like its own little legal entity or something.
Yeah, but well, there was an initiative to fund some Bitcoin development here in an area called Valle de Angeles, but the initiative was slowly did not work. I don't know why. I don't know the details, but I know it was poorly implemented. But I know something could work if it's better implemented, you know.
Mm. Were they trying to develop their own wallet, or was it sort of
They wanted to build a
more
circular
merchant
economy. They
payment
wanted
stuff?
to make a community, but it did not
Yeah.
work.
So they're sort of like a bit like the Bitcoin Beach in El Salvador or something like that. They were trying to get that established.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've also got people here from the European Union. We've got Norway and Bulgaria. What's Bitcoin like over there?
I'm not sure what you mean by how it's been, or I think like most people here maybe have a little bit, buy a little bit. Can't sit in your shops, or so I don't know what you meant with your, maybe ask like how I guess Bitcoin is worth the same in your country.
Yeah, I guess what I meant
I mean,
was
I mean, it depends on the use case because you could use it as a store of value, or you could use it like for exchange type of businesses. And what failed here was the exchange. People wanted to transact in Bitcoin, but it was poorly implemented. But the store of value function is always working. There will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin. So it will never inflate. So saving it in that money, in the hardest money known to man, makes your wealth not decrease.
If you can, yeah, I would think like this. If you can get rich on a little bit Bitcoin, or say that's what you want, invest in property, man, land. That's the only thing that is never going to go. Property and land. If you own a farm, you own the rest. You don't even need to run it, you can make other people.
Yeah, but maybe the property prices are inflated by the inflation of the central bank shitcoin, which is dollars or wherever you're from. So maybe the property is just.
Yeah, I don't have this. I think.
You increase your dollar base, you increase your property prices.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of people, the way they
For me to discuss it, it's no point.
the way they view Bitcoin is as a digital version of real estate or property. I think Michael Saylor says it's like Manhattan real estate. So Bitcoin, because it's got that fixed size and can't be expanded, it is scarce, which is the main property, the main thing about land that makes it valuable is the scarcity of it. So you can view Bitcoin like digital land.
Yeah.
And yeah, my question about adoption in Norway was actually, you answered it perfectly. So in some places, Bitcoin's being used as a day-to-day currency, but in other places, it's actually just being used more as like an investment or a store of value, is the word we used before. So that's interesting. So in Norway, it's more of like an investment. That's really cool.
Yeah, at least at least the people I know, they have bought quite a bit. I don't know how to say it, but like invested, and they hope that it will like triple or 5-double, I guess, or maybe more in the future. It's like I don't actually know any Bitcoiners to like say it like that.
I mean, that's a good hope, but that's not the main thing about Bitcoin. The main thing about Bitcoin is the main thing about it is it's property, and it only 21 million exists, so you can grab as much as you want, and no one can devalue it. So it's a better property than all property that exists today. That's the value proposition. It also can be used as currency, so it can be used for a lot of things. So the demand will be high.
So okay, let's just assume that I'm stupid, okay? Or let's not assume. But yeah, so you're telling me that I want to buy a farm, right? Property. But so if I get my hold on, say, 10 bitcoins, just save that, that will forever be worth a lot. I don't ever need to exchange it, I think. I can just use that as like, what do you say, if your parents die, you inherit money, so then you will inherit, like Bitcoin will never go out of worth as much as it is now.
I think that's exactly what it means, yeah.
I got it.
Yeah!
I guess that leads the store of value property sort of comes before the, you know, medium of exchange property, which is what Hodler was talking about in his country. You know, maybe we have to still go through a little bit more of the store of value proof before it's then widely used as a medium of exchange. So yeah, your inheritance there works first, and then maybe it goes down to the next generation for spending at some later stage.
Yeah.
That could be 10 or 20 years away. Larger adoption, who knows?
But yeah, for example, I don't see Bitcoin happening in food shops, for example, like, because it goes so much up and down. It, like, you can't, or it will never happen soon, that you can go to the food market and buy 1 liter of milk or 1 piece of bread and buy it with Bitcoin.
Yeah, that might be the case in your country, but some other countries may see it actually more stable than their own local currencies, which, you know, Argentina, Brazil, Turkey, they're having, you know, massive inflation. So it does depend on, you know, the country, and different people use it in different ways. It's really up to the individual, isn't it? So I think more developed countries probably use it as more of a store of value, and then, you know, maybe in decades it may be a medium of exchange. But I think that's different in every country throughout the world, how it's adopted.
Yeah, because, okay, another stupid question, but say you are like a true Bitcoiner. You don't do day trades and between of the coins or the crypto to try to gain more, or do you? Because, I mean, like, if I would own 1 Bitcoin right now, then I don't see any point in actually using it for anything except economic stability in case something, right?
It's not in case,
not
it's
like
already happening. Like, if you price everything in Bitcoin, you see everything's falling in Bitcoin terms. That means everything is falling in value, but not Bitcoin, you know? That's what it was. That's what it really means. So, no, I don't trade it because I only see whenever the price drops, I see it as an opportunity to buy cheaper. I don't see it as an opportunity to trade. I just see
an opportunity to add to your stat.
Cheaper. Yeah.
So
to my store of value, my long-term store of value.
This leads perfectly into my next, before we move on to the presentation, I have another little 1000 sat giveaway. Now this is going to be a really easy trivia question, so you have to be really quick to answer. What was the first country in the world to make Bitcoin legal tender?
El Salvador.
Yes, correct.
We are live
here on the ground. Is your stuff.
I never win anything.
Well, congratulations. And I guess now we'll move on to Kiwilamb with his presentation.
I think you win by just turning up. I think there's something that Orange gives you at some point. It might be a little prize.
Yeah, everyone who shows up today can get 1000 sats from Orangemart. He's running the camera right now, so after the presentation you can go up there and trade him at the shop front.
So hi everyone. Let's start this presentation. I hope you can see the board behind me. It's got a few notes on it, and I'll be swapping those out occasionally, so I might be having a pause there to do that. I have to just manually swap the boards out. We haven't got our own projector yet. Maybe there's some sort of projector item that we could get the Rust developers to create that would be able to project a screen in here one day. I can only imagine things will get better. So just going to talk about some Bitcoin wallet stuff today. And just go over a little bit here. We can talk about some peer-to-peer transactions of Bitcoin. We're going to discuss a little bit about what is a wallet. We're going to cover some types of wallets, and there's a few terms that we can cover off, which we sort of touched on earlier about sort of custodial, non-custodial, and there's a couple of other items that come out of the wallet types as sort of hot and cold wallets and things like that we can talk about. I do want it to be kind of interactive, so if there's any questions or anything, just yell out. I think we've got the questions in the stream or something being monitored, so someone will let us know if anyone's asking questions in there. So some of the goals just of this is just to have a better understanding about what wallets are, what options there are, what's available. Some wallet options for different types of use cases. We've got about just earlier, we've got spending versus saving, or storing your Bitcoins for longer periods of time. Some people like to spend Bitcoin, some people like to save Bitcoin, and some like to do both. But as always, hopefully this will give you some inspiration to go out and do further investigation, do some reading, ask questions, and there's plenty of Bitcoiners out there to help. So we're always happy to help people on board with wallets, help them sort out what their best options are. So always ask around, plenty of Bitcoiners, happy to help. We'll just cover off, just switch out this board. So I'll just cover off first part of a Bitcoin, which is a Bitcoin transaction. And there's a key difference here between a Bitcoin transaction and what you would understand as a typical bank transaction that happens in the real world. So just understanding how a transaction works in Bitcoin sort of helps you encourage the use strength of one of Bitcoin's, one of Bitcoin's strengths, which is peer-to-peer transactions. So the key difference in a Bitcoin transaction and, say, a bank transaction is that the Bitcoin transaction happens peer-to-peer. So that means that the sender is directly sending their Bitcoin to a receiver, and there's no third party or middleman interrupting that in any way. You kind of think that, well, a bank transaction sounds very similar. I mean, you send it to someone else and it seems to be peer-to-peer, like just directly sending it to them. But actually under the hood, there's many parties involved in getting that transaction to the receiver. In case of being a local transfer, within your own country, there might be a couple of banks involved there. And then, you've got to expand that out to, say, like an international transaction where you're sending overseas. There could be many banks involved, intermediary banks, so there could be 3 or 4 banks involved. This can take a few days to get through, but also, more importantly, any one of those banks could actually stop that transaction from going through. And they could censor it, usually for reasons that they won't explain, or they don't tell you why. It's just like, oh, we don't like this transaction, you know, we're going to censor it, we're going to stop it, no, you can't pay this person. That's one of the key differences with the peer-to-peer of Bitcoin, is that once you've sent the Bitcoin onto the network, there really is nothing from stopping it from going through. A miner will pick that transaction up, and as talked about before, that will go onto a blockchain or block. And there's no censoring in the middle.
We have a question from Al Bubu.
Sure. Has that been written, or?
He asked.
Like you say, peer-to-peer, and then you have like the banks in between. So, but every time I do a transaction, I have to pay, and I can't, like, if I have the 1,000 I can't draw 1,000. There's always a broker's fee. Who is the broker? For me, that sounds kind of like a bank, right?
Okay, so you were saying that when you send a Bitcoin transaction, there is a fee, yeah. Yeah, so you're paying, the fee is going to the miner to mine the transaction into the block. So that's their incentive to actually include your transaction onto the public ledger. So yes, there is always a fee. I'm just going to swap this sign out. So we've got these transactions that are sending. So what is a wallet? So really a wallet's purpose is to send Bitcoins, receive Bitcoins, monitor Bitcoin balances, and actually create these transactions that get sent to other parties on the network. So that's really the wallet's purpose. So the wallet is an interface with the Bitcoin blockchain, and the Bitcoin blockchain exists as the public record. So just as a side, we set up a little clock over here that actually gives us a count of how many blocks the network has actually produced from its starting date. So we've got 796,623 blocks currently being part of the Bitcoin public ledger. And approximately every 10 minutes, all the transactions on the network are collected and put into the next block. And that generally happens every 10 minutes. So that's been going for a number of years. So when you broadcast a transaction, a miner picks that up and puts that into the blockchain. So each block contains a number of valid transactions, and that's a full history of the movement of Bitcoin. So the wallet interface with the blockchain, and how does that interact with it? Well, the wallet holds a very special passphrase, or you could think of it as a password, which we call a private key. So it's one of the most important parts of a wallet is to manage that private key. And that private key that's managed in the wallet allows you to send Bitcoins to others, formulate those transactions. So when you kind of see a lot of these pictures on the internet, you see these sort of wallets with pictures of Bitcoins hanging out of them. Well, there's not really any Bitcoins in wallets. Wallets only allow the movement of Bitcoins that you control on the blockchain. And the private key allows those movements. So really, the wallet is a management piece of software for the private key. And it's one of its sole purposes is to keep that key safe for you. And no other person can get hold of that private key, because if they can get hold of that private key, they can authorize transactions on the blockchain. Also, the private key is used to create your public keys, and your public keys are there for you to receive Bitcoin. So you can give these public keys to other people and they can send. And it's infeasible for that person to figure out from that public key going back to your private key. So that's an infeasible thing to be able to do. So it's quite safe to give out these public keys and receive Bitcoins to them, knowing that you're the holder of the private key and have been able to spend those at some future date. So really, in summary, the wallet's purpose is to create, store, and manage that private key. Now, we'll just go into a little bit of history of some wallets. Originally, with this public and private key pair, we call it, was a one-to-one relationship. And this was going back probably, 2010, 2011, that sort of thing, where the public-private key pair was a one-to-one relationship, and it was a little bit difficult to kind of back up and manage all these keys. You had to actually take a backup of each private key, and that was quite cumbersome. Although Bitcoin Core sort of stored it into a single file for you, other wallets and offline type wallets made it quite difficult to manage the backup of these. So there was a system created, and it was via a what we call a BIP, and a BIP is a Bitcoin improvement proposal, and it's like a collaboration of changes to something in Bitcoin, and that's generally discussed openly within anyone who wants to join and contribute to that. And then the outcome of that, there may be some changes made to Bitcoin. And one of those changes was this BIP 32, which proposed an idea of how to better handle these one-to-one relationships between public and private keys. Just going to change the sign out here.
We have a question from the audience. Thodel asks, so do you get private keys for both cold and hot wallets?
Yes. Yes, both cold and hot wallets. We'll cover some cold and hot wallet stuff in a minute. But yes, cold and hot wallets both have private keys. I think what you may be asking that you don't have a private key would be something between a custodial and a non-custodial wallet. And we'll also talk a little bit about that in a couple of slides. So this BIP 32 really proposed a way that you could have this master, what we call a seed, that would handle multiple keys. So really, it's just a way to manage multiple keys from a single seed. And you can think of the seed here as you've probably seen when you've set up a wallet, a bunch of words that are given to you. And those words could be somewhere between 12 and 24 words that are sort of human readable form of the seed. And usually the wallet gets you to write this down as part of your recovery. So what this can do is that if you ever lost the wallet, or the wallet or software became inaccessible in some way, you would be able to recover using this seed that you've created up front. And it sort of easily manage all those public-private key pairs underneath it. So no longer did you have to back up these many private keys because there was a single one-to-one relationship. You could just back up this one seed and all of your public-private key pairs are backed up and safe for you. So you no longer had to worry about that, and it just made it a lot easier to back up and recover your setup. That was part of bit 32. I'm just going to change out the slide.
So, a quick question. Even though it's only like 12 or 24 words that are your seed or your private key, it's actually extremely unlikely that anyone else would ever have the same 12 or 24 words, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's some various videos and discussions about that kind of give you a bit of a comprehension of how infeasible that would be. It's something that your mind can't quite get around because the numbers are just quite astronomical. But, you know, I hear that it's a bit like, if you can imagine every atom in our entire universe, it would be like picking two atoms that would be the same. And I mean, how many atoms are in our universe is like, you know, a mind-boggling number. But yeah, even though it seems on the surface like it's only 12 to 24 words, I mean, the combinations that come out of that are extremely large. So yeah, that it's mathematically infeasible, right? To generate two that are the same.
Another question from the audience.
Yep.
If you're happy to take it now, the other question is clarifying. The question's clarifying, like, do you get given a private key, or can you can create one yourself? Like, how could you create one?
Look, you can create them yourself, but you generally need to have a device or something to be able to do that. Now, whether that's software or hardware, that's an option. Could you mathematically create one? Yes. You could probably do one with a pen and paper if you're a cryptographer. I don't understand the math of that. I'm no cryptographer. But yeah, it is math. So if you want to run through the formula, you could generally create a private key.
You want to have randomness, right? So if you try to create a private key by choosing 12 words yourself, you might actually choose 12 of the common words on the list that other people choose. But if you were to use, like, I think you can use a dice roll, like casino dice, to help you create randomness if you want to generate your own private key. But yeah, as you say, like, hardware wallets are designed to generate that randomness for you.
Yes, that's right. And when I cover hardware wallets down in this list here, we will discuss a little bit about that, because that is an important part of the generation of that private key. As you've said, the randomness is very important, and humans are not very good at creating randomness themselves. They think they may be, but they're not. So it's best to, you know, let a specialist device or something like that do that for you to make it truly random. Because choosing your own words, that is not a recommended thing to do. Definitely not a recommended. So we're just going to cover off a few different types of wallets here. We've got paper wallets, software wallets, which consist of sort of web, desktop, and mobile wallets. and we've got hardware device type wallets as well, and one called brain wallets, which we do touch on. So we're just going on to paper wallets now. A paper wallet was one of these early types of wallets where they managed the private key with this one-to-one system. So you had a private key and it had an associated public key. And I'll just swap out the signage here to give you an idea of what a paper wallet used to look like. And this was an early way of generating a public-private key, which was basically stored on paper. So it was one-to-one. We have this Bitcoin address here that I've just circled on this left side. This is the public key. And over here on the right side, this QR and this code down here is the representation of the private key. So this was an early way of how to generate public-private key pair and have them, I guess, in your own possession. But there's a few problems with this. First off is that, how do you generate these keys? And these keys had to be generated by a piece of software. And usually this was online via a website. So you'd come along and the site would make you produce some sort of randomness. Usually it was like moving your mouse around, and it would generate your private key for you. And hence you could, click create me a wallet, and it would present you this, pretty screen like what you're seeing here, and you would be able to print this out, and then you'd be able to send Bitcoins to the public key, and hence you'd be able to spend them with the private key. So the problem there is that obviously you're trusting that website to create that private key for you without storing it itself. You don't really know what it's doing with that private key behind the scenes. It could be storing it, for later use, or it could be monitoring the public key to see, oh, it had some Bitcoins sent to it, and then sort of steal them. One site that comes to mind that used to do this was a site called Bitaddress, and what they did was actually made it so that the site, you could actually take it offline. You could actually run it on your own computer. So then you could ensure that you could disconnect it from the internet, you could run it locally, and you could generate that private key. That was a little bit safer, especially because the site source code was open source, and obviously it could be vetted that it wasn't doing anything strange. So that became a reasonably popular way to create your public-private key set. And this is an offline storage, so it is on paper. You could fold this up, put it in a safe, keep it private. Obviously, with paper, it's not very resilient. You could get it eaten by your dog. You could get some water damage to it. Maybe it could get burnt down with your house or something like that in a fire. So it's not very resilient, although it is what we call offline storage, or what we call cold storage. Cold storage is something where the private key is kept offline and it never is online. Now, there's one caveat with this paper wallet, in that if you want to spend this Bitcoin, you have to actually bring that private key online in some manner. So it has to go into a wallet or a piece of software to be able to spend it. For example, these QR codes on this paper wallet you would have to scan this to be able to spend it, and that effectively is bringing it online. So although it's cold when you're storing it away in your safe and no one can get to it, however, when you spend it, you are bringing that key online, and it becomes hot at that point. So kind of helpful in the early days, but it's definitely got some flaws. And you know, if you wanted many different addresses, you'd have to have many of them and store them separately as well. So that's a bit of a background on how paper wallets used to work. I've got another slide here. I'll just drop out. Hopefully I get the right one.
Our boo-boo mentioned that he knows someone who keeps their private keys on metal so that it can't be burned in a fire.
Yes, yeah, we'll cover that just in a moment. Yeah, that is definitely a good option. Although I guess the key difference there is that the paper wallet, you know, is the storage itself. And I think what Albubu might be referring to is that, you know, once you've created a software wallet and it gives you those 12 or 24 words, you're actually, you know, stamping those into metal plates or putting them onto metal. There's plenty of metal devices out there that will help you secure those 12 and 20 words onto something far more resilient than paper. So we'll just talk a little bit about software wallets. So we've got these paper wallets. Software wallets are wallets that exist on your desktop, mobile phones, desktop software, you know, iOS, Windows, that sort of thing, and also covers web-based wallets. One of the early ones I can recall would be something like Blockchain Info, which was a web-based wallet. These are generally considered sort of in the wallet area, probably the least secure wallet, because they're always connected to the internet, and these could be open to some sort of hack, some sort of Trojan that could steal your keys. So a lot of desktop systems, you kind of considered them, or should consider them compromised in some way. They are connected to the internet, and I suppose you could be open to viruses and hack time. This is also in the area of what we call a hot wallet. So when the private keys that you have that are in the wallet are connected to the internet in some way, that's what we call hot. So those keys are hot. They're ready to sign transactions at any point in time through the wallet software. So that's where we get that term hot wallets. Types of wallets that are the website wallets, like exchange wallets, website wallets. You know, betting sites and Bitcoin services generally operate these online wallets that can be. They can also be in two categories. You have what we call open source software and closed source software. An open source wallet is something that is developed in the public, and the source code can be scrutinized by various people in the community. Closed source software is something that is developed in private by a private company, and you cannot see the source code, or you don't really understand what's going on in the wallet. These are somewhat problematic is because you don't know how these wallets are handling your private information within the wallet. You don't know, how they're generating these keys, and you don't know how they're really handling the these keys when they're signing transactions. For all you know, they could be storing or taking copy. So they're definitely a wallet that you have to trust the provider, especially if it's closed source. You're putting a trust provider not to steal these. Open source, a little bit more ability to see what's going on. There's also some sites out around there that help look into wallets, / open source / closed source type wallets. One of those sites is something like Wallet Scrutiny that tries to actually look at various different wallets and give some reviews and feedback. These web-based wallets have a large convenience factor to them because the keys, the private keys, are hot and they can sign transactions at any time. That simply means that you can whip out your mobile phone with your wallet on it. I've talked about a few of these in the past. Some people have mentioned, you know, sort of Breeze, Wallet of Satoshi, you know, there's dozens of different, you know, Green Address, there's dozens of different wallets that operate these, what we call hot keys, and that gives you a convenience of spending because you can simply whip out your wallet, formulate a Bitcoin transaction and send it off for spending. That makes them very use, although the keys are hot, available on. Just change out this slide. Have we got any more questions there?
Here's a question. If you're trying to decide how to store your money, you could probably split it between hot and cold. And so how do people make that decision? Like how can people use the different advantages and benefits of each simultaneously?
Yeah, okay. We will cover that in about another slide. Your choice on how to store your funds. Let's we'll have a little bit of a discussion on this. So one of our other types of wallet we have, so we've covered these paper wallets. We've covered the very common software wallets that most people tend to use for the convenience, and those keys are presented hot. I also have this slide on hardware wallets. Now, a hardware wallet is a very specific piece of hardware that is used to store your private keys. So it's a specific device, and its sole purpose is to secure and hold your private keys. And they tend to be what we call cold, which means that these are never connected and the private keys are never connected to the internet. So how that happens is generally the device receives this Bitcoin transaction that we talked about earlier, and it actually signs it with the private key on the device itself, so it's never exposed online. So these are considered the most secure forms to hold your keys. It makes it very difficult to extract. The hardware device itself is developed in a way that makes it very difficult to actually extract the key from the piece of hardware itself. So they're quite physically secure as well. Although there have been known attacks, it does take specialist equipment and knowledge to. the examples of some of these hardware wallets are things like you may have heard of Coldcard, a Jade, Trezor, or something like a Bitbox. And there's many different brands out there and options, but their sole purpose is to keep that key always offline and never transmitted. Like the open and closed source software of the software wallets, you can also have open and closed software, or what we call firmware, for the hardware wallets. So ultimately, the best option is to choose an open source firmware where it can be scrutinized by other third parties and, you know, experts as well. Closed source, once again, we don't know what's going on under the hood. Very difficult to tell what's happening with closed source software. So they fall into two categories as well. Hardware wallets can be based on open source firm. For convenience, they're probably a least convenient device because you have to somehow get the transaction to the device for signing. So it's not something you usually carry around with you. It's usually something that you store your Bitcoins for a long periods of time, or you're not doing spending with this Bitcoin so much. So I guess that kind of relates to the question that we just had earlier. We have these software wallets that make it convenient for spending because the keys are always hot and you can sign transactions easily. And then you have this hardware wallet side that's kind of at least convenient for signing transactions. So they sort of tend to be more suited for savings Bitcoins or long-term storage of Bitcoin. And both of these wallets, like software wallets, hardware wallets, when you first install these wallets or create these wallets, they will give you these 12 or 24 words as a backup. And also, as one of the questions mentioned, you can stamp these to steal, or there are devices out there specific to be able to manage these keys. So if ever the hardware wallet broken, you know, could be by your dog, in a fire, lost, stolen, you've always got those 12 or 20 words stamped in steel, hidden away as your recovery. They are backup recovery store. And one of the other types of wallets I up on my board was a concept of a brain wallet. And now a brain wallet is simply those words that are created. You're just remembering them in your head, and you effectively throw away anything else. There's no backup or recovery, you're simply just storing those 12. These are considered probably quite safe, though there's a few issues there. You don't want to forget them. You don't want to have a bump on the head, lose them in any way, because effectively you have no backup of them. That's the whole point, that they're just stored in your brain. This might be a use case for short-term situations where carrying something physical is not possible, and you kind of hear of stories on the internet where people are maybe leaving some authoritarian country, you know, where they can't take anything with them, or it's very difficult to take any wealth out of the country. They may choose to actually just remember 12 words, cross a border or whatever, and then they could recover this on the other side using a brain wallet. not a
we
bad
have a
idea
question.
for short-term storage if you can remember 12 words in your head. But like the paper wallet, at some point in time, if you want to spend this brain wallet Bitcoin, you do have to bring it online to obviously sign the contract to spend it. But that's a key thing. It still has to come online at some point. Yeah, we had a question.
Question from the audience. Can you send your Bitcoin to one of those cold wallet hardware wallets when they're offline?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So yeah, great question. So just remember that we talked about earlier that the Bitcoin itself isn't stored in the wallet. There is no, in fact, even on the blockchain, there are no Bitcoins. We just call them Satoshis. A Bitcoin is a collection of Satoshis. But anyway, the Bitcoins don't exist in the wallet. What exists in the wallet is the private key. And that's the most important part of the signing. So yes, you can receive the Bitcoin with a public key, because the actual movement of the coins is happening over there on that special thing called the blockchain that we monitor our account over. So yes, you can receive to hardware wallet. So you can. This is why they're very safe, very quite convenient to use for savings, because you can, produce, get your hardware wallet, produce your special seed, write down your backup phrase into steel. You can retrieve some public addresses from it, and you can receive Bitcoin to those even though you've put that hardware wallet away offline in a safe or wherever you find convenient. So yep, you can receive. You can also receive onto software wallet. So it's the same concept. Broadcasting and the actual transaction, I guess the movement of the coins, there's the movement of the coins is happening on the blockchain itself. Does that help clarify that one?
Yes, thank you.
What other questions that we had that we hadn't got to before? So I've got a couple of slides here. We can talk a little bit about some of those concepts that we mentioned about hot, cold, custodial versus non-custodial. I'll just get one of these slides. Yeah, so here's your key difference between your hot and cold wallets. So the cold wallet, the key is never exposed on it. That's the term cold. Hot, the private keys are available for signing on. So different wallets will handle those keys in different ways. Generally, a hot wallet would be a hardware wallet. Types of hot, a cold wallet would be a hardware wallet. Paper wallet tends to be cold. A brain wallet tends to be cold, apart from when you have to bring those keys online for signing. Hardware wallet is that different one there, because you don't have to bring the keys online. The actual signing happens on the device. But all the web wallets, desktop wallets, mobile type wallets are considered hot. They are always having their private key on. And then you've got custodial and non-custodial type wallets. So custodial wallet is where the third party has control of the private key. So that would be something like if you're buying Bitcoin for the first time off an exchange and you just have it sitting on the exchange, you don't have any access there to the private key. Like, they haven't given you private key to be able to spend that Bitcoin. You can move it out to your own wallet, and then that would give you control of that Bitcoin. But at that point in time where it's sitting with a third party, that's a custodial setup. And then you've got non-custodial, which only you have control of the private keys. And there's a great saying that's around the Bitcoin area from Andreas Antonopoulos is not your keys, not your coins. And we've seen a lot of that with these custodial type systems, GOX, even more recently, things like FTX and stuff like that, where you don't have control of the private keys, so you're open to these third parties, failing due to insolvency or being hacked, and stealing the actual company's keys. You don't have control of them, and it's not much. So we always try and encourage the custodial, the non-custodial side of Bitcoin, which is hold your own keys. We have any other questions?
We got lots of clapping in the audience.
Yeah. Well, that pretty much wraps it up. I mean, unless there's anything else we want to discuss. Yeah, that pretty much wraps up the talk. So if we've got anything we want to talk about that within our discussion, we can get that as a group.
Yeah, anyone got any questions?
I've literally just turned up. Sorry. Any good Lightning Network ones?
Yeah, I could. We could have a little bit of a talk about the Lightning Network. So all of the stuff that we covered. Oh yeah, sure. Yep. So all of the stuff we sort of covered today was really about what we call on-chain, how Bitcoin on-chain transactions work. There's a number of terms used to describe that. On-chain, base layer, that sort of thing. These are transactions that happen at on the actual blockchain itself. So Lightning Network, or Lightning payments and Lightning wallets, these happen on what we call a second layer of Bitcoin. And the wallets and the Lightning wallets keep track of the balance on the Lightning Network level. So these transactions don't happen at the base layer. There's a couple of things of benefit there that the Lightning Network can have over the base layer transactions, is it doesn't have to wait for these confirmations of blocks that we talk about that happen every 10 minutes on the base layer. So Lightning is not restricted to wait for those confirmations. And it makes the Lightning payments very fast to send, and also with very low fees, because once again, because you're not transacting on this base layer, you're not incurring the mining fee so often for the Lightning payments, and it makes it ideal for spending small amounts of Bitcoin very cheaply. So we can send these very easily. We can send a few sats, 2 or 3 sats, or even 10 sats or 1 sat around the Lightning Network without incurring much It makes it super convenient for small amount. And in fact, there's some really interesting use cases that have been used for the Lightning Network, which is used for podcasting, where you can actually stream sats to someone who's created some content, and maybe you want to stream them some sats on the Lightning Network. You could pay them, say, 1 sat per minute, or even 1 sat per second, and this is actually feasible to do. So it makes micropayment systems very, very interesting. I think we'll see a lot of use cases come out over the next few years around that sort of thing. So what a Lightning, so back to your question, I mean, what a Lightning wallet allows you to do is basically transact on that second layer.
Is that basically what the blood goes to? That one?
Yeah. So Orange here work with an in-game choice of using blood. I think that's because have an item satoshis in Rust, but we have blood, and then you exchange it for satoshis. And a satoshi is 1 Bitcoin is 100 million satoshis. So it's 1,000 sats is a fraction of a Bitcoin, and you can trade that in, and Orange uses a system via their vending machine to be able to allow you to trade that for actual real, and that's happening over the Lightning Network. You could at any stage move that. You could at any stage move that Lightning Network Bitcoin to on-chain if you like, via your wallets. It's possible. You sell it.
Sorry if I'm interrupting. Just for the hardware wallet specifically, how does the private key sign a transaction offline, and then how does that get broadcasted to be online? Like, what's the connection between that offline signing and then online broadcast to the blockchain?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple of different ways that the hardware wallet manage this. Some wallets have a piece of software that goes along with them that you actually run desktop computer or a mobile phone, and your hardware wallet will be connected to that in some way via Wi-Fi or a USB cable, and so it interacts with that software on your phone. Now how that works is that you would open that piece of software up, say on your mobile phone, and you would formulate who you want to send Bitcoin to and how much, and then the piece of software will shuttle that what we call unsigned transaction off to the hardware device via the physical connection of the USB or the Wi-Fi, whatever it is, and then the device signs that internally itself. So it's it's technically not connected. The private key is not connected here, or doesn't get exposed to the external world, and so that transaction is signed on device, and then the device will shuttle it back to the piece of software on your wallet, and then that wallet will broadcast that out to the network. Now there's another wallet that handles that in a different way. An example would be the cold card, where it actually is, or you can operate it in a completely physically disconnected manner. So you have a piece of software that you've chosen to do your transaction, and there's many out there. Just one example would be something like Sparrow Wallet, where you formulate the transaction. You've got someone's receive address, you give it the amount, and then you create this software file, which is actually the transaction. And then you actually have to physically copy that file to an SD card. And then you take the SD card, plug it into the cold card, which is the hardware wallet. And that signs that transaction. You physically pull this SD card out again from the cold card. You plug it back into your desktop or mobile computer. And then the software wallet, like Sparrow, will pick that up again and then broadcast it off. So it depends on how the hardware wallet handles that. But the cold card has chosen to do that in that manner, for example, shuttling it via a SD card, because it has the option then of completely keeping that hardware device offline. Like it doesn't have to in any manner. It's not connected via USB. It's not connected via Wi-Fi. It's just a file shuttle between. And in fact, there's some later developments with making this a little bit more convenient, where you can actually shuttle these, what we call unsigned transactions, to a hardware device via, say, a camera. You can scan using a QR code. The device can read in the unsigned transaction that manner. It can sign it, and then it sends it back to the software for bust. Yeah. So that's how that works. Is that that clear? Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, those hardware wallets, great for keeping your private key secure. That's what they're built for. But they are less convenient because you have to do this little bit of extra, proof of work to get your transactions signed. And going back to a previous question, I think someone was asking about, when do you choose a wallet for savings versus spending? I think this is a great example. A savings wallet is a little bit less convenient. Tend to be in the hardware type wallet camp. A spending wallet would be something like, a hotkey wallet that we talked about that actually holds its keys within the wallet for signing. You can just bring out your mobile phone and go, scan a receive address, put in an amount and send. And that's considered a hot wallet. So that might be more convenient for spending day to day.
Let's all give Kiwilamb a huge round of applause. What an awesome presentation. Thank you so much for putting that together and for giving up your time to talk with us today and answering all our questions. Thank you everyone here for showing up.
That's good, thanks. That's helped a little, and
if you have any more questions for Kiwilamb, he lives just around Orange here, so you might see him about. This wipe has been amazing. There's been so much proof of work out there. This wipe, so many people out there promoting Orange, spreading the word of Orange and bringing people to the server. A lot of people building new things the first time and exploring the game more and getting more competent at what they're building, and so much commerce happened this wipe. Lots of shops happening. It was awesome to see all the trade logs in the Discord. That was really cool. So Orangemart has given me permission to award a proof of work award today to an individual who this month has certainly done lots of proof of work. It's our local inventor, the inventor of the Rust block clock, and the teacher today who gave up their time and presented to us. So big round of applause for Kiwilamb. 40,000 Satoshis proof of work award from Orangemart. So thank you very much, Kiwilamb.
Oh, thank you. Awesome.
Everyone else, thank you all for attending. Yeah, thank you very much, Orangemart. Orangemart has a little welcome gift for everyone who attended. So just pop by the shop front at some point. They'll turn off the stream in a minute and they'll be available. But yeah, chat amongst ourselves, network with each other, keep on chatting Bitcoin, and really looking forward to the new Orange at the end of this week. There'll be new opportunities to make blood. I think everyone's probably seen a glimpse of that with Sats are now going to be a reward for the Bradley and the attack heli. So that's going to spice things up a little bit. So yeah, thanks everyone. Another big round of applause.
Very much. El Boo Boo obviously found it a little boring. He fell asleep.
Hey, Peachy, come here to this window. There you go. Behind you.
He said he was drunk.
He was drunk.
Go to this window here.
I took a hit before the presentation.
Oh, beautiful fireworks.
Yeah.
So when is wipe day?
For New Zealand it's Friday at 6 a.m.
Green button that's on the screen.
Next Friday.
This is your pilot speaking. We're now arriving at Orange. If this is your first time, a reminder, there's no customs or immigration, or any government for that matter. The people here, they're, shall we say, self-sovereign, free to build and create, to play and trade, and that's just the beginning. Now please strap in. It's gonna be a hell of a ride.
Who do you become when nobody's watching? What lengths will you go to survive in this world?
When there's cold hard cash up for grabs, doesn't that make all this real?
There is no second best. We're ungovernable.
No. We die on this hill. I will fucking die on this fucking hill.
We have values. But if you're going to take those away, then we'll leave and we'll start a new America. We'll start America somewhere else. It's an idea. It doesn't have to be in frickin' Chicago.
This is your pilot speaking.